Justin Baldoni's team has issued a response in opposition to dismiss the New York Times.
How the New York Times actively vouched for the veracity of its false narrative.
We actually want all evidence to come out that's proper and appropriate evidence.
Did you know that one sudden move in a Hollywood courtroom could flip an entire legal narrative on its head?
So we kind of knew this was coming, didn't we? The collusion argument.
Today, we're uncovering the shockwave that just rocked one of the entertainment industry's most explosive legal battles.
I looked through every document, every email, every text message.
In a case pitting celebrity narratives against hard-hitting evidence, Blake Lively's legal team is in disarray.
You guys were complicit here. You guys were involved in this every step of the way.
And no one could have predicted the dramatic exit of her top lawyer.
That's the whole point of a lawsuit, is you just start with allegations. And allegations are not evidence. They're just statements of fact that help establish this is the claim that I'm bringing.
Stay with us as we reveal every twist, tension-filled detail, and the stakes that could reshape the future of celebrity legal battles.
Look, there's a lot of factual determinations that need to be made here, not legal determinations. And because there's factual determinations, you got to leave it to the jury. You got to give a jury the property.
Yeah, exactly. And so they're just saying, look, just let the facts decide. And the trier of fact in any case is going to be the jury. Unless it's a bench trial, then it's a judge. But this is not. This is a jury trial.
The drama began with a series of explosive allegations that promised nothing less than a blockbuster showdown.
There's some bad things that happen here.
At its heart lies a bitter dispute between Justin Baldoni's camp and the narrative crafted by Blake Lively's team.
They hired, meaning the Wayfair parties, hired a crisis PR manager who orchestrated a smear campaign against Lively.
Initially, Blake's claims were presented as a heartfelt account of misconduct, a story designed to win public sympathy.
It wouldn't surprise me if that's what we see, but I do have to say that the arguments in this opposition were really good.
However, doubts quickly emerged when critics pointed out a glaring lack of concrete evidence. Instead of facts, what fueled this controversy was a meticulously engineered media campaign.
Reynolds and Lively wanted Wayfair to issue a statement taking the blame for Lively's bad press.
Intended to sway opinion before the courtroom could even call the shots.
Baldoni's team drops a massive $400 million suit on Blake and a lawsuit against the New York Times. Then they publish 170 pages of perfectly documented texts and emails between all the parties that basically show Blake to be the aggressor. Here's the proof.
Imagine a narrative so carefully spun that every text, email, and internal memo becomes a weapon in the battle for public perception.
Yeah, and again, at the same time, Nathan assembled a team that could dominate social media through full social account takedowns by starting threads of theories and...
Hold that thought.
Here we go. Generally working to change the narrative. So it's impossible to know how much they planted and how much of it originated organically. Well, wait a minute.
That's exactly what unfolded as Baldoni's legal team began to assemble a dossier that exposed inconsistencies and pointed to selective storytelling.
You're making a factual assertion that these people did something, seizing on it and amplifying it.
From the start, the stakes were sky high. Not only was reputation on the line, but the very credibility of media reporting was being challenged.
This suit against the New York Times is hard.
But this is only the beginning. As we peel back the layers of this case, it becomes clear that the real story is not just about celebrity claims. It's a clash between truth and narrative manipulation, with the courtroom poised to decide who gets to control the story.
Here is the clip in question. Now, this video
filed on Friday.
Thank you to
Private
Citizen
text
Journalist
messages
for putting it on easily accessible. This was part of the article.
If you think the legal battle alone could keep you on the edge of your seat, wait until you hear about the media's involvement. The New York Times, long hailed as a beacon of journalistic integrity, found itself in the eye of the storm.
Campaign to tarnish Lively after she alleged that Justin Baldoni, her co-star and director, and Jamie Heath, the producer, had engaged in misconduct while shooting the film.
Rather than serving as an impartial reporter, the paper's coverage went beyond mere reporting. In a stunning example of rushed journalism, an explosive article was published during the holiday season.
And that's what the New York Times is coming back and saying, look, we're not Blake Lively. We're not the ones making the allegation. We're just fairly reporting on what Blake is suing Justin and Wayfarer for.
Was this a case of genuine breaking news or a calculated move to tip the scales? Critics argue that by presenting Blake Lively's allegations as confirmed facts, the Times not only manipulated public opinion, but also risked forfeiting its journalistic shield.
Decided not to run it for fear of defamation, I'm sure, for fear of you and defamation. So they didn't run it, but some of these TikTokers have done it.
Instead of offering a balanced view, the story morphed into an endorsement of a narrative that would later be challenged in the courtroom. As the details emerge,
He mocked Baldoni in the process. He said, it's an effed up bad situation with what Baldoni, whatever his name is doing.
Legal experts warned that this transformation from neutral reporting to narrative advocacy might strip the media outlet of legal protections usually afforded under the fair report privilege.
If they would have said, Blake alleges that, or according to Blake, blah, 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 this happened, they'd be protected. But they said, and her title is investigative journalist. So she's investigative journalist for the New York Times. So that is implying that she's done an investigation. She's actually looked in this. We can trust her.
The consequences are twofold. Not only does the media risk defamation claims, but it also undermines public trust in institutions once seen as impartial arbiters of truth.
The New York Times have looked into it, and this is what really happened. So now they're stating as a fact, not as an opinion, that this happened, and that's how they're going to get into trouble.
And this is where the tension builds, because when the media starts playing both sides of the story, the lines blur, and the truth becomes the ultimate casualty.
Admittedly based its article and video on its reporter's review of thousands of pages of documents and expressly credited Lively's claims, framing them as having been verified by the New York Times' own investigation.
Behind every headline and explosive claim lies a battle over evidence and credibility. Justin Baldoni's legal team has methodically countered Blake Lively's allegations with a mountain of emails, text messages, and internal documents that tell a very different story.
They're supposed to be the bastion of journalism, right? But, if they had just said it's the opinion, would this have mattered? Will this factor in the fact that they did seemingly have this for months due to the metadata and things that we're seeing?
Their central argument is straightforward. While sensational claims were made, there was never any hard proof to back them up. Instead, a media-fueled narrative took center stage.
So now they're saying like, hey, we tried to fact check. We gave you the opportunity. Oh, you didn't respond. Oh, if you would have responded, we would have maybe thought of things differently. But hey, we just went with what we had, so we can't be sued. So this is what they're doing.
Attorney Brian Friedman has been at the forefront of this legal fight, delivering a scathing critique of the New York Times' role in the case.
So here's why he's suing them. It's super creative. They said, evening of December 20th, hey, Justin, here's all this horrible stuff we're going to print about you. You have until tomorrow at noon. We'd love to hear your response. He engages with them. He says, okay.
He insists that by presenting Blake's claims as verified truths, the paper transformed from a disinterested reporter into a partisan player. Friedman's argument is layered with tension.
And New York Times prints a story prior to noon with the partial information. And my guess is they were worried another outlet was going to hit this story.
He warns that this bias not only skews the public's understanding, but also erodes the ethical foundation of journalistic reporting. In the eyes of the law, the concept of actual malice is critical.
It happened. Investigate it. Do a series of articles. Let's see it.
To succeed in a defamation case, it must be proven that the publisher either knew the information was false or recklessly disregarded the truth.
It's not unlikely. I think there's a high degree of likelihood that the court probably, on one of the arguments, and maybe it's the group pleadings, but will grant the 12b6 motion and ask Baldoni's side to amend the complaint.
Friedman contends that the internal documents in the Times revealed just that. Evidence contradicting Blake's narrative was available, yet it was deliberately sidelined in favor of a more sensational storyline.
So you might as well just amend the complaint and clean it up now. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's what we see, but I do have to say that the arguments in this opposition were really good.
The courtroom is now set for a battle over truth itself, one where every email and every memo could tip the scales.
And the arguments were really strong, so that wouldn't surprise me either.
All right. Whew, that was a marathon.
Just when the case seemed to be following its predicted course, an unexpected twist sent shockwaves through the legal community.
An intimacy coordinator, and Blake refused to meet with him or denied, said, I don't need to meet with the intimacy coordinator. I'll see you on set. I'm all good. So, then Baldoni is tasked as the director with going to break down what happened when he met with the intimacy coordinator so he could get her up to date on it all.
In a move that has both legal experts and industry insiders reeling, Blake Lively's lawyer abruptly walked out of the case. This isn't just a minor setback. It's a dramatic shift that throws the entire legal strategy into question.
And they're arguing that California's tort claims, et cetera, damages in California are different because make their personal and professional homes. They may make claims in California.
What could drive a top attorney to abandon a high-profile case in the midst of such a heated battle? While we can only speculate, the sudden exit suggests deep, internal doubts about the strength of the case.
What Justin is saying is that California substantive law should apply on this placing somebody in a false light.
As mounting evidence from Baldoni's camp continues to unravel the narrative, the lawyer's departure may be seen as a recognition that the foundations of the claim are crumbling.
So California recognizes a claim for damages or for money for placing somebody in a false light. New York doesn't have that same law. What Justin, I think, is correctly saying is that, hey, I'm a California guy.
It's a powerful, symbolic moment that underscores a growing fear that the carefully constructed narrative on Blake's side might be built on sand. The immediate fallout has been palpable.
All these other people in California, you, New York Times, based in New York, knew that publishing this story would impact me and others in California. So you reached out and touched us in California, so now California law applies.
With one of their key legal figures gone, Blake Lively's team now faces an even steeper uphill battle. The focus shifts to whether the remaining arguments can withstand the scrutiny of a jury.
I think it's extraordinarily difficult to sue a media outlet and be successful. Most of these are done just for press, like, oh, I'm suing the New York Times for all this money, and they end up getting, devastated. Here, I think he has a pathway.
One that won't be swayed by media spin, but will demand hard, unassailable evidence. This dramatic exit is not just a moment of legal strategy. It's a turning point that could redefine the entire case.
Even if it doesn't succeed, meaning he doesn't get to a jury or a jury says, hey, I'm going to give you $1 or something like that, I like that he's exposing this because, we hope that journalists would actually investigate completely. We hope that journalists would give each side a fair chance rather than smearing and destroying one side.
No legal drama is complete without a battle over where the fight will take place. In this case, the question of jurisdiction adds yet another layer of complexity. Although the New York Times is headquartered in New York,
the hypocrisy that Blake and the New York Times were doing the same exact thing, I mean, that's hard to ignore, no?
Its controversial reporting has reverberated most strongly in California, a state where the reputational stakes for those involved are particularly high. Legal strategists on Baldoni's team argue that because the publication's impact was most significant in California,
showed that Blake is the one that colluded and conspired to get this movie and this IP out of his control so Blake could run the show. In that massive upload of documents, Blake leverages her friendship with Taylor Swift.
that state's more favorable defamation laws should apply. California is renowned for its robust protections for individuals whose reputations have been damaged by reckless journalism. By shifting the legal battleground to California, Baldoni's team is not just fighting for justice. They're fighting for a legal standard that might finally hold media giants accountable.
And are suffering in a public way. I think it's distressful, to say the least.
Imagine the domino effect. If the case is ruled under California law, media outlets could be forced to rethink how they report high-profile cases. This isn't a mere procedural dispute. It's a strategic maneuver that could set a precedent for how defamation cases are handled in the future.
A lot of these people who turned their back on Justin Baldoni right off the bat, like he did a podcast called the Man Enough Podcast, and he did it with this woman, Liz Plank, is his partner in the podcast. Soon as this New York Times thing.
The tension here is palpable. If the court sides with Baldoni's team, It could mark a seismic shift in media accountability, ensuring that sensational reporting has consequences beyond public outrage.
The dates are redacted. The names of the complainants are redacted, except for on one of them, there's an M. And in Blake's original, when she went to Sony, and by the way, they're not to Wayfarer Studios, Justin's company, they're to Sony, the distributor.
In today's media-saturated environment, celebrity influence and PR maneuvers can sometimes blur the line between truth and spin. Blake Lively's case is a prime example of how carefully orchestrated media narratives can be weaponized to serve personal interests.
At least one of the other ones came around the same time, if it's May, unless it was March, but probably May, same time as Blake.
A well-oiled PR machine, complete with strategic placements and explosive headlines, was deployed to paint her as the aggrieved party. High-profile endorsements and the involvement of influential figures added fuel to the fire, amplifying the story far beyond its factual basis.
I'm not really clear on why dates would be redacted. So it'll be interesting to see what the dates are. And as far as Sony is concerned, I believe there's a Variety article that I read that's published, that's out there, that says Sony received no complaints.
Yet, as the evidence from Baldoni's team mounts, the true cost of this manipulation becomes clearer. Critics argue that when a narrative is built on selective facts and amplified by celebrity power, it risks not only the credibility of those involved, but also the integrity of the media itself.
Is that they always say better to apologize than ask permission. Well, just not when you're defaming people. So here's what Lady C had to say.
Prominent voices in the industry, social commentators and veteran journalists alike, are now questioning whether the public is being misled by a narrative that prioritizes sensationalism over truth.
Lady C had to say as she sums it up. She's been following this. As someone who has had the last 5 decades of her life blighted by deliberate false reporting from newspapers.
Can the truth survive when public opinion is swayed by the allure of celebrity endorsements and orchestrated media spin? The answer remains uncertain, but one thing is clear. This case is forcing everyone to reconsider the true price of a story that's been manipulated for maximum impact.
I have every sympathy for Justin Baldoni and the Wayfarer Studios victims of the smear campaign that the New York Times spearheaded on behalf of Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds last December.
With tensions at a fever pitch, and the unexpected lawyer exit adding another twist, the next chapter in this legal saga promises even more drama. Attorney Brian Friedman is unwavering in his insistence that the case must proceed to trial.
It is therefore gratifying to note that Brian Friedman, power attorney, has opposed the New York Times attempts to have itself struck out from the Wayfarer lawsuit by simply making the point that that publication was not neutrally reporting on fact, but was actually propagandizing on behalf of the Reynolds.
His argument is simple yet compelling. Only a jury made up of everyday citizens should be allowed to sift through the evidence and determine the truth.
Some time ago, I pointed out that I had been told by an eminent Hollywood insider who deplores the way the Reynolds and their cohorts have been behaving, that the couple and the New York Times had been colluding with one another for months before publication.
A trial offers a stark contrast to the current state of media-fueled narratives. In the controlled environment of the courtroom, every piece of evidence, from painstakingly gathered emails to detailed internal memos, will be examined without the filter of media spin,
as well as laying out the unethical way in which the New York Times cravenly behaved. I can't see how Judge Lehman can possibly allow that publication to hide behind free press freedom when it knowingly, unconscionably, and unethically allowed itself to be used as the disseminator of false information.
This is where the narrative will be put on trial, and where the real story, free from the distortions of public opinion, can finally emerge.
Juries don't like liars. Trials are about credibility.
Picture a courtroom where every document is a piece of the puzzle and every testimony is a window into the truth. This is the promise of a trial, a chance for the facts to speak for themselves and for justice to be served based on hard evidence, not manipulated headlines.
If they find that she just was dishonest and lied on one single point of evidence in this case, in her testimony, the jury instruction says that they are allowed to discount her entire testimony.
The stakes couldn't be higher. Not only is the future of this case hanging in the balance, but the outcome could redefine the standards of media accountability and legal responsibility in Hollywood and beyond.
It seems insurmountable. It seems like this case cannot be settled.
The implications of this case extend far beyond the legal teams and celebrity headlines. At its core, the battle is about the balance between press freedom and journalistic responsibility.
And that's why you think, like you mentioned before, that you think this video is the most damning evidence that Baldoni has so far.
I think so. And it's better than words.
When major media outlets like the New York Times blur the lines between unbiased reporting and narrative advocacy, they risk undermining the very institutions that are meant to protect the public's right to accurate information.
Blake Lively's PR firm begging to be let go of the case. I think actually they may have the worst messages of all.
How much influence should the media have when it comes to shaping public perception? This question now looms large, as viewers and legal experts alike call for accountability from those who wield the power of the press.
Team Blake Lively may think they have the upper hand. Sources say she has no idea what's coming regarding her battle with Justin Baldoni.
The fallout from this case has already sparked widespread debate on social media, with discussions centering on the ethical responsibilities of journalists and the potential consequences of biased reporting.
In the court of public opinion, they've lost.
The ripple effects could be profound. If the court rules that media outlets must adhere to stricter standards of impartiality, it might force news organizations to re-examine their editorial practices. In turn,
There's a lot of comments that she puts in here that you're just like, why would you want to take over someone's movie? The outfits in this end are so out of touch. No, we don't want to watch bullies like Blake.
This could lead to a cultural shift in how high-profile legal disputes are covered. A shift that prioritizes fact over frenzy and truth over spectacle. This legal battle is more than just a dispute over reputations.
It's insane, and that's crazy. And this is a reason why I think in the future people are just not going to work with her, because it's starting to add up. People are realizing that this is a pathology.
It's a litmus test for media accountability in the modern age. The sudden departure of Blake Lively's lawyer sends a powerful message. When a narrative is built on unverified claims and fueled by aggressive PR tactics, even those who once championed it may lose faith.
Justin Baldoni just got a big win, meaning Blake Lively got a big loss. Are her lawyers dumb? Like, what's happening? Why do they keep making these mistakes and fumbling the ball like this?
In a world where every headline can be manipulated, what happens when the truth fights back? That's the question at the heart of this case. The courtroom is not merely a battleground for legal arguments. It's a stage on which the future of responsible journalism will be determined.
Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have hired former CIA agents with a proven track record of lying to the public, gaslighting the public.
Should the trial reveal that sensationalism has overtaken accuracy, it could force a seismic shift in how media organizations operate, ensuring that the rush to publish does not come at the expense of truth.
We're women, so we can just lie and cheat and steal our way in to control these big movies. I mean, how disturbing is this to you?
In this pivotal moment, the case stands as a stark reminder. When the balance of power tips too far in favor of manipulated narratives, the consequences can be explosive, not just for the individuals involved, but for the entire landscape of public discourse.
Chuck has a matching pet monkey with coordinating outfits, and I was like, I would love to be part of the show, but I can't act with a monkey. And then I got a few of them.
The unexpected exit of Blake Lively's lawyer has not only thrown a wrench into her legal strategy, but has also raised urgent questions about the integrity of media narratives and the future of press accountability. With every twist and turn, the stakes continue to rise.
Such an important story. I know you don't give a shit about it, but this is such an important story. Because if they would have won against him, a guy whose dream was to be a Hollywood actor, producer, director, they could have crushed his career if they would have won.
What will happen when the full weight of the evidence is brought to light? Only time and the courtroom will tell. As the legal showdown moves closer to trial, one thing is certain. This case will force us all to re-examine the stories we accept at face value and the power of the media to shape our perceptions.
Really can turn that screw if she wants to. Calculating, manipulative, right? And mean. There's just a lot of it there, and it's all adding up.
Before we sign off, consider this. the battle between truth and narrative isn't confined to Hollywood. It's a struggle that echoes through every corner of our information age, challenging us to look beyond the headlines and demand accountability from those who report the news.
So she filed a lawsuit before actually having clear evidence, and we're supposed to just continue to believe her.
If you found this video insightful, please hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your engagement helps us keep the conversation going and brings us one step closer to uncovering the truth. Stay tuned for more updates on this explosive case. This is Sasha Spills signing off. Keep your curiosity burning, and I'll catch you in the next video.